In terms of what has gone wrong in the Democratic Party, it's the same thing that went wrong in the Republican Party, but I do have to give you guys credit for a revolution well done. And what I mean by that is not a revolution against the Democratic Party or the left or the country, but a revolution against the establishment. So I knew you guys were for real in fighting against the establishment when I started going on right-wing shows and I would say something negative about Mitch McConnell. And when I did that in the past, what I would get back is, oh, no, Mitch McConnell's great. Pelosi's terrible, but Mitch McConnell's great.
Let's do that here. What do you guys think of Mitch McConnell?
All right. Yes, I love that. So, look, for my left-wing friends that are watching out there, they just booed Mitch McConnell.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Once again, we got to talk about the allegedly liberal, loving, tolerant left, because they're most certainly not loving, they're not liberal, and they're not tolerant, okay? And they show us this almost every single day, okay? And they've been showing us this quite a bit after the election because they seem to be seething at the mouth over other leftists coming out and saying, you know what, maybe MAGA's not that bad, right? Maybe there's some things in which we can work with MAGA on to accomplish common goals, right? That's essentially what Cenk is doing, okay? And again, that doesn't mean that Cenk is MAGA or anything like that, or that he's a Trump supporter. That's not what I'm saying. Cenk, I think, realizes the writing on the wall, that the progressive movement is dying, okay? The progressive movement has been a failure, specifically when it comes to social issues. The left, they have gotten completely out of control, and their chosen leaders, handpicked by the so-called Justice Democrats, which was led by people like Cenk, people like AOC, they failed. They've absolutely failed. The squad has failed in Congress. They haven't accomplished a damn thing except dividing this country more among racial, gender, and sexuality lines, right? Among identity lines. That's the only thing they've done. Outside of that, they haven't accomplished much. So I think what Cenk is saying here is the fact that, hey, the MAGA guys, they've actually taken over the Republican Party, right? Like, they actually get things done. They actually have power, which is something that, again, progressives really don't in the Democrat Party, outside of making the Democrats more woke on social issues. But outside of that, they don't have that much influence, right? And I think that's why Cenk is deciding to reach out to MAGA and to try to find some common ground, because he knows that his movement, right, that he started is just completely and totally ineffective. And I think that's what's happening here, okay? And the progressives, they can't stand it, right? The leftists, they're losing their minds over people like Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur being open-minded, more open-minded towards MAGA. So I want to react to this clip from this individual by the name of Jesse Dollymore, who's going to do his best Rachel Maddow impression for his audition on MSDNC, right? Because that's essentially what this segment reminds me of from this individual. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Second clip, this takes place about 17 minutes in, where they're literally handshaking with one another. Charlie Kirk, a white supremacist, someone who is an anti-Semite, someone who hired someone outed as a virulent anti-black white supremacist by Tucker Carlson. Fox News fired him when his secret blog was exposed. Blake Neff is his name. And Charlie Kirk snatched him up to be a producer and a frequent appearer on his show. And Cenk Uygur has nothing but good things here. Handshakes, and let's go get a beer with Charlie Kirk. Watch this.
So you got to know what to convince the American people of and what to hold your ground on. And the number one thing to hold your ground on is constitutional rights. So I'm going to do some...
Like the Second Amendment.
That's actually a pretty good comeback there from Charlie, right? That's actually pretty clever. He got Cenk there with that one.
No, I know. So guys, look at that. We totally disagree on that issue, but we just...
You were asking for that one, I'm sorry.
No problem. No, but look, but that was an important moment because we totally disagree on that issue, but we just shook hands anyway. And you know what we'll do afterwards? We'll have a beer. So, you know what it is when you disagree on something and then you fight about it and then you have a beer afterwards? That's called America.
Look, this isn't about finding common ground. If Adolf Hitler said, look, I like oxygen, it's good, it helps me live, you wouldn't say, well, look, there are some things that I agree with Hitler about. You don't need to do that. You don't need to.
I love how these people always pull out the Hitler thing, right? They cannot come up with any analogy that actually makes sense, that's actually accurate. This is why they always resort to, well, my opponent is Hitler, right? Because it sounds really kind of silly and, again, very intolerant to come out here and say, hey, well, you shouldn't talk to people that you disagree with politically, where you have a difference in politics, right? It sounds, again, very intolerant and extreme. So in order to hide their own extremism, they try to paint people like Charlie Kirk and Trump as Hitler, right? Well, they're Hitler. Last time I checked, Charlie Kirk nor Trump have killed millions and millions and millions of Jews, right? I haven't seen that, okay? That didn't happen. So when you have to prove your point by comparing people that you disagree with politically to Hitler, it just shows you how weak of an argument these people have in the first place, right? It's very weak. So again, in order to strengthen it, they have to essentially compare people to some of the worst dictators to ever live. And yeah, it just shows you the desperation here.
To find common ground with people who want to destroy democracy, with a party that endeavored to end democracy in America, literally attacked, had a failed coup attempt with their insurrection at the Capitol on January 6, 2021.
You know what's so hilarious? Again, these people keep talking about democracy. Again, I wonder what this guy thinks about what Democrats did to Joe Biden. I wonder what this guy thinks about what Democrats do every primary season. They overthrow democracy within their own party. Democrats shafted this guy and millions of their other primary voters by staging a coup against Joe Biden. But this dude is concerned about Republicans, Trump overthrowing democracy. When Democrats do that within their own party, it's just so hilarious to me. This is why the whole democracy thing is just so funny to me. Hearing these people talk about how much they care about democracy when they clearly don't. They don't at all.
I shake hands and say, we can go get a beer because now, yeah, we can disagree. When your disagreements are about people's right to exist, human rights.
No, it's not. Nobody is trying to say that trans people shouldn't exist. That's what he's talking about, right? And again, they frame these issues in the most extreme ways that, again, are not accurate, right? They're not nuanced, accurate descriptions of the issues, the disagreements. The disagreements on the trans issue has nothing to do with their so-called right to exist. It has everything to do with the special rights and privileges that some people believe that transgender individuals should have over the rest of society just simply because they're trans. That is where the disagreements come in, okay? But again, see, he can't frame it that way. He can't actually have a nuanced conversation about, okay, well, should biological males compete against biological females in sports? He'd lose that argument, right? It's not an argument that is an easy argument to win on the left. So again, instead of actually talking about the real issues in an accurate way, no, well, you just don't want trans people to exist, right? That's what they're pushing against, human rights. It's like, well, it's not a human right for biological males to be able to compete against biological females in sports. So biological males are going to female locker rooms and spaces and stuff like that. That's not a human right. It's not a human right for kids to be able to transition before they become adults. That's not a human right. Again, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? About
participation in the democratic process.
Something that Democrats didn't get to do, right? They didn't get to do this time around when it came to picking their candidate, right? Again, it's hilarious. Where's all the outrage at the Democrat Party over this, okay? Where's all the outrage?
That's a bridge too, maybe it's just me, Maybe I don't glad hand with white supremacists, with racists. I don't break bread with racists. I don't have beers with racists. Apparently, the people Cenk chooses to sup with, to cavort with, are just different than me. He has a different tolerance level for vile white supremacy and white Christian nationalism, which Charlie Kirk represents. I used to, decades ago, when I was a young Republican, I used to say things like what Cenk just said. Like, well, we could disagree. I don't get angry about politics. I just have a different opinion than you. And I came to kind of realize that was because I had no skin in the game. Cenk is a wildly wealthy man. The Donald Trump administration isn't going to come for him. In fact, he'll benefit from the Trump administration tax policies because he's a rich man. And when I was a young Republican, I was a white Marine, middle class. I held privilege in my existence. I carried with me privilege.
So he's essentially making an argument that he was a Republican because he was privileged, right? He was privileged. That's why he's a Republican. You have to be a privileged person in order to be a Republican, right? That's the argument that this individual is making, okay?
So I could be a Republican and support Republican policies because they weren't going to hurt me. I had no skin in the game. I'm not black. I'm not being oppressed. I'm not being boxed out of the franchise of democracy. I'm not gay. I'm not.
Let's continue on.
Being oppressed. I'm not being told you're not fully equal. You're not fully American. You can't fully actualize and realize the bounty that is America. But apparently, Cenk is so simplistic in his thought, he doesn't work through that. He's okay with sharing a stage, hyperbole or not, he's a Nazi.
Yeah, so again, this guy basically is admitting that he's a con artist, right? That he is exaggerating, okay? That he's saying this for the shock effect, right? Because again, to come out here and to say that, hey, you know, Cenk, I don't think that you should talk to people who disagree with us, right, politically. Yeah. That sounds very extreme, okay? It sounds very authoritarian as well, too, right? So in order to soften it up, they have to frame their opponents as Nazis. They have to exaggerate, which they're admitting. Yes, I'm exaggerating so that my argument makes sense, okay? Because otherwise, it won't make sense. But here's the thing. There are people on the right who are upset with Charlie Kirk and Cenk as well, too, for having this conversation. And all I got to say is this, right? I personally am not one of these people that thinks it makes sense to hold a grudge against Cenk for all the things that he said about Trump and MAGA for years and years and years and years, if Cenk can be useful for accomplishing the America First agenda, right? Specifically when it comes to things that the populist right and the populist left agree on. Like, for example, term limits. When it comes to banning individual stock trading in Congress, these are things that the left agrees on, right? People like Cenk agree on these things. So if we can come together and get those things accomplished, I'm fine with that, right? We don't have to agree on anything else. What I'm really about and what I think is the more practical way of getting shit done in politics is not to focus on what you disagree on, but to focus on what you do agree on. What do you agree on? And focus on that. Right? You can disagree all day about, you know, guns. But as long as there's disagreements, nothing will get done. Right? Nothing will get done on that. So it's basically a wash. Okay? Nothing's going to happen either way. But if you both agree on term limits, banning stock trading, things like that, like if you both agree on those things, then maybe it can get done. Maybe we could actually move the needle on those issues. Instead of it just being something that we talk about and that we both agree on, maybe it could be one of those things where we actually say, hey, we accomplished that, right? We got it done. through both our movements, hey, we were able to put people in place that push to get these things accomplished that we both agree on. And it can happen. It can happen because I personally believe that there are more MAGA folks and progressives than they are the establishment, right? Or at the very least, it's probably even. So if that's the case, you can definitely make a push for it in Congress if you get enough people behind it, enough people supporting it, people demand it on both sides. You can definitely get it done. But that takes coordination. That takes cooperation. That takes having an open mind and being able to listen to people that you disagree with and not focus on the disagreements, but focus on what do you agree on, okay? So, yeah, Cenk, in my mind, is still a delusional progressive, okay? That hasn't changed. But, hey, there's some things in which I say, okay, Cenk, I might agree with you on this. I might agree with you on that. And that's what really matters. And what you're seeing here in this video from this guy, again, is the intolerance of the left pushing people away. This is why their movement hasn't accomplished anything, right? This is why their movement is a loser movement. This is why there is now a stigma when it comes to being a progressive because of these types of individuals. Everybody that I disagree with, there's a racist, they're Nazis, they're Hitler, they're fascist. It's like, okay, well, what are you going to accomplish with that, right? What are you going to accomplish? Not a damn thing. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.